Hello everyone, my name is Savanna Pineda. Imagine being stuck at Disney World. No rides or attractions, no friends or family, just your coworkers and bosses all there for one reason: work. And in general sense, that is the situation NBA players are currently in. Today I'm going to inform you all about the critical rules and regulations as to why professional basketball players are contained in a bubble in Disney World Resort. To those who may not like basketball, this may be of little interest to you. However, the standards set for the NBA and their COVID cautious measures can serve as a lesson or even preview of what extreme measures need to be taken in the middle of this pandemic if we want any grand events like sports, concerts, or any others of the sort to occur. Today I'm going to talk about three topics. First, I will explain what the bubble actually is. Second, the protocol set for someone leaving and returning to the bubble. And third, the adjustments made to teams due to COVID regulations. All of this can be better understood once you know what the bubble actually is, so let's start there. The bubble is the term used to describe the isolated campus of Disney World Resort while the NBA players reside there. The players of the NBA entered the bubble at the ESPN Sports Complex at Disney World Resort in Orlando, Florida on July 7, 2020. Disney World Resort was chosen as a designated place for many reasons. Due to the pandemic, they were not hosting any guests, and so the deal with the NBA was beneficial for them as well. It also was big enough to house all the staff and players and capable of being secured from the public. Players and staff stay at 3 different hotels within the resort, and games are played at 3 different arenas with a limited amount of people present. According to Hyslop's 2020 article titled "The NBA Bubble Explained," limited media, team executives, NBA union personnel, and inactive players are allowed in the stands, but other than a few sponsors here and there, no fans are allowed to attend. Upon entry, the players were isolated for 2 days and tested for COVID twice. Both results must come back negative in order for them to be allowed out. After this, they can't leave the bubble until their teams are either disqualified in playoffs or their absence is excused. This leads me to my next point on what is done if someone does leave the bubble, excused or not. There are certain safety measures to be taken regarding interactions with other people during this pandemic. The NBA takes these rules extremely seriously, and so they have set up their own set of rules for each situation. According to the CDC website on when to quarantine for COVID, you are meant to isolate after having interaction with someone who may have had COVID. The protocol states to stay home for 14 days after your last interaction with someone who may have had COVID-19. Watch out for fever, cough, shortness of breath, or any other symptoms that may coincide with COVID-19, and if possible, stay away from others. The NBA has made their own protocol regarding someone leaving the campus and has 2 different regulations depending on if that leave was excused or not. According to ESPN's Windhorst and Bontemps article titled "Inside the NBA's 100-Page Safety Plan," if someone has a family emergency, their absence is excused. Once they leave, every day spent outside the bubble, they must be tested for COVID, and each result must come back negative. Then, once they return to the bubble, they are isolated for 4 days and then can return to normalcy within the bubble. However, for players who leave without an excused absence, once they return, they are isolated for 10 days, and their swab samples are deep nasal testing. Many strict protocols have been set in place for safety during this pandemic. Factors such as guests, the number of players, and teams playing have all been adjusted accordingly. According to Sporting News, only 22 teams were allowed in the bubble, and the teams were determined based on the standings when the season resumed. Each team was allowed 37 people total, that's including their staff and players. During playoffs, more people could be added if the team made it past the first round. During the regular season, no extra guests were allowed, but now during playoffs, each player is allowed a total of 4 guests max, and the only exception is if a non-family guest comes, they must have a long-standing relationship with the player, such as a girlfriend who the public knows about and they have been together for a decent period of time. Business relationships were not allowed. Reporters were permitted to enter the bubble, but only 15 were selected. Before they enter the bubble, they must isolate for 7 days at home, and once they enter, they are isolated for another 7 days. The outlet each reporter works for pays $550 per day for their room, food, and testing. In New York Times is Getting Used to the New NBA, Stein shared his experience inside the bubble and explained and debunked a common belief that reporters get to hang around players, stating all face-to-face contact with players, coaches, and staff team members are prohibited outside of official interviews and news conferences arranged by the league. While they're all contained in the bubble, interactions between players and reporters are still limited. These strict rules are the third factor that allows for the NBA season to continue with no COVID cases among the staff and players. The structure of this setup, it demonstrates what a normalized COVID-cautious world would be like. You have now been informed about the three main topics of the COVID quarantine NBA bubble. First, what it is, what the bubble actually is. Second, the protocols set for someone entering and leaving the bubble. And third, the adjustments made to teams due to COVID regulations. While all of this may seem extremely complicated and maybe not worth it, it is to the players, or else they wouldn't be there. LeBron James, a player on the Los Angeles Lakers, stated in an August interview with 247 Sports, "I will be as locked in as I can under the circumstances. I won't cheat my teammates, I won't cheat our fans, and I won't cheat myself. I'll be ready to go."